Hey, travelers. I know this is a little different than what normally happens, but I just wanted to come before the video, before the podcast, and say that I'm so sorry for um, the audio issues that are on my part. I do not know what happened. This was filmed a few months ago, so um, not sure what happened with the audio for my end. Everybody else sounds fine. It's just me. So, yeah. I hope you enjoy the episode. Bye. Welcome, travelers, to this episode of Dyson Dish. It's me, Spox Valentine, with the lovely Foxfire
Hello.
and Erica Nerdy Yogi.
Honey Hun.
And we are super excited to get into this week's episode. So, Erica, go ahead and roll that funk of dice.
Sparks.
Okay. So, my topic for tonight was what type of character do you like to play? Not your favorite class and race, but kind of like your. You can kind of include background in this, but just the type of character that you enjoy to play. Um, I definitely say mine is either the very charismatic and talking one. I do tend to go towards characters that are that way, except for recently, I've been branching out and going with the bitchy and characters.
No.
Bitchy?
You've
I think
always been bitchy.
Okay,
demonetized by
but
cursing the
like,
first minute of the video.
but
It's fine.
like no, that's not one of the bad ones. But no, like
Okay.
more like that is their defining character, like their characteristic. All the other ones, they've been like very talking and they're very frontward facing characters.
Face.
The face. But that's kind of whenever I think of like types of characters that I've made, that's kind of the arch that I can see. I also like to make characters that cannot really get hit. So those are kind of, I kind of like to be the untouchable. The untouchable and the face. It's kind of what I've noticed. Out of the type of characters I like to bring in with the backstories, it's either something I usually kind of like to go for funky, or I like to go with your, you know, your weird normal, my parents died, or the something really bad happened in my backstory and that's why I'm here kind of character, which I've kind of upped those backgrounds a lot from the original backgrounds I used to write. So, type of characters do you guys like to play?
So for me, I guess it just depends on what I'm playing and what system, kind of what setting. I would say that if I play 5e, I usually like I like big weapons. So there's that. But I like big weapons and just in general the idea of them, the aesthetic of them. I go a little bit different with my backstories. I usually like to have a good relationship with the parents because I feel like if you have a DM that will incorporate your backstory, then there's a chance for you to get to role play with your parents, and maybe the parents could be useful if they're alive. I mean, they could be a catalyst if they're dead, but I feel like a lot of people go with the dead. And so I'm like, well, maybe it would be kind of fun to go like hang out with mom or dad or whatever. So there's that. I kind of, I think I had played a character once where she was a paladin and her mom ran a homeless shelter. And we actually went into the homeless shelter and visited her because she had like a little altar in there. And that was kind of neat because my character would go in there and do like service for the city and for the, people that are struggling. So I don't know. I don't have like a steady like stereotype of character I play. It just depends on how I'm feeling and really the DM and the setting. Sometimes I'll go for somebody who's funny. I never really go for somebody who's serious. That's hard for me. I'm not a serious person. So usually my characters are kind of more um, on the less serious side. I think that's probably where I don't go. I don't play elves because I don't like elves. It's true. So I don't have like I have a more of what I won't play than what I will, I guess you'd say. Because most time, to be honest, I'm behind the screen. So, you know, that is kind of where I usually am. So character wise, I try to bounce around. That way I feel like it makes me, when I come up with NPCs, a little bit better at offering different types of people than just the same NPC all the time. And if you kind of play the same character all the time, then, I don't think it's as much fun. But I tried playing a serious paladin or cleric once. It didn't go well at all. It was really hard for me. And she was an elf too.
Is that the real
Yeah.
reason you hate elves?
I
was
feel like
that?
elves are very serious races. I feel like there's that about them. And because of that, I just feel like I have a hard time with them. The half elf I can go with, but elves, and plus two, I love dwarves. They're like my favorite. And there's that racism there, or speciesism, or whatever word you want to use, but it's there. And I just can't get down with it.
Okay, so for me, it's got to be a spellcaster. Whatever it is, if there's a spellcasting option, I've got to play it. I am not a melee person. I've tried melee. I don't care for it. And I'm wrong for this, but I just don't feel like I can roleplay a melee character as well as I can a spellcaster, because I don't feel like I necessarily have as many options. Because I'm going to tend to put more of my stats into the stats I need to protect myself. And that usually means my mental stats are lacking. And I don't prefer that. With spellcasters, you tend to have more stats in your mental stuff, your intelligence or your charisma, and so I prefer that. I prefer a character who's a little more chaotic, a little more charismatic, and usually smarter. Although I have played characters that were ditzes and it was so fun. And the other thing about all my characters, I always like them to have a secret. The secret can be small, it can be silly, and the secret can be big. I've played characters, the Kitsune that I have mentioned in other episodes, she hid what she was for the first few sessions until the party found out, oh, you're that. And then I played a warlock in one of Erica's games where her pact with the Lich didn't come out that she was supposed to be collecting souls until I hadn't done it in a while. And so Erica was like, hey, you know that thing? I need you to give me that wisdom saving throw and see if you just get a little bloodthirsty.
And I cleared that with her. I was not taking away her agency.
No. She didn't.
Say.
Yeah, it was something we both discussed. It was all willing. But things like that I always find fun. I like having some type of secret in my backstory because I feel like it gives the DM something to work with later.
Yeah, I think in that same campaign that you had the Lich, I also had, mine wasn't a pact, but it was more of a curse that my character thought it was, that I also kept secret. But I feel like how you said, like, in your backstory you like to have that secret. I like to have in the backstories that I write a reason why. What happened that caused me to do that, and could it come back later down the line to mess things up? Like in our campaign now, the way that I wrote my backstory, it's real hard because the group that my character put at odds is the group that we are working with the most. So it kind of makes you think of how are you supposed to navigate those situations when they are such an integral part of your campaign. And it's just one of those things. It's like you got to figure out how to do it. You wrote the backstory. You got to do it. You got to deal with
Yeah.
it.
I know that like Travis Willingham said something interesting, I thought. So like people thought he was a himbo, and he might be, I don't know. I don't think he is, but I mean he's a CEO, so I doubt it. But a lot of people thought he was a himbo because they thought, oh well, he's just playing Grog. That's who he is, right? But he said that in his day-to-day life, he does so much with his brain, and he wanted to, with
Turn
his
it
first time
off.
being on stream, just be able to sit down on stream and turn it off. And so he would just, I smash stuff. I'm stupid. I don't make decisions. I don't really help with planning and stuff like that. A lot of times he would interject and see one and be like, okay, this has been going on too long. This is what we're going to do. And you can kind of see that. And if you watch C1 a lot, we're talking about Critical Role if you don't know what I'm talking about. But anyways, I thought that was interesting because and I'm about to start a Call of Cthulhu group. Keeper is our buddy Kurt, who's been on the pod. And I made a character who is shy and she doesn't make decisions because I DM for this group on the off days. And so I was like, it would be nice to play a character that is indecisive, and she's always like, she'll just go with whatever everybody wants to do and not have to make decisions and just be like more in the background and just kind of see how that is. Because I am an opinionated person, and usually that comes through my characters. And that's just the way. I mean, it's a flaw, or you can look at it as a strength, whatever. So I'm going to try that out. We'll see how that goes. But I asked Kurt as well, part of my character creation, he has a phobia deck, right? Eventually in Call of Cthulhu, you develop phobias after maybe you take
Yep.
insanity or whatever. And I asked him, I was like, well, everybody usually already has a phobia. And she's like 22, 23. I asked him if I could go ahead and draw a phobia just to give her a little bit more for me to play with. So now when she starts taking sanity points, she'll already have one phobia and she might get more. So I get to role play out that phobia. And nobody knows what it is but me and him. So we'll see how that goes.
I will say, like with the Call of Cthulhu, with their phobias, when you roll, like when it's sanity, usually with those, a lot of the times they don't play into actual fears like that you would normally have with that, because a lot of times it's like you fear everybody around you because you think they're this and they're all that, and then some of the fears that it has in the roll table isn't even in the scene with you. So some of them don't make sense. Like you could get like a fear of blood. That would make sense if you're in a fight fighting eldritch monstrosities. But then sometimes it's like you have a fear of snakes for this long, and you're like, well, where are the snakes? There's none here.
Well, and that's another reason why I asked him if I could pull one. So that way I could pull one, and then it was part of my character creation, right? It was like, okay, so why does she have this phobia? And it gave her a little bit more of a backstory because I gave it purpose. And so, that's kind of what I was thinking. And it is more what I pulled is more of a permanent thing. Yeah. And it actually kind of goes well with her, just who she is.
She have a fear of public speaking?
I'm not saying.
Why? I'm not in your game.
She can't say. Neither of us are in your game. And by the stream.
Okay.
Just in case.
By the time this comes out, I'm pretty sure it'll come out.
I don't know. We haven't started playing. At this point in time, we done our session 0, so we're gonna start playing here in a couple of days. So we'll see. But I can tell you this: she is a librarian, and she is a pervert. She likes to walk around and watch all of the college kids make out.
Getting it on in the library.
No, making out. Keep it PG.
We're not PG here.
Okay, well,
we are not.
She's a watcher, and so
she has voyeurism.
She has a little
Yes,
bit of
that's exactly it.
she has an obsession with a fellow student that comes in who's a very big bookworm, and he hangs out in the library a lot, and she basically stalks him from the books afar.
Okay, well, does anybody else have anything to say on this is that topic? No? Okay. Roll the dice.
Fox?
All right, so my topic is curses. How do you feel about them in your games? How do you implement them? And maybe what's your favorite one that you've ever encountered? So, I love to implement curses in my game. I find them incredibly fun. I love to be afflicted by them when I'm in a game. I'm a weird person. I just find it fun. I find it interesting. Because even though I prefer to feel powerful in the tabletop RPG, like in 5e, I also like that little bit of detriment because it often creates great roleplay aspects. One of my favorite cursed things that I put in almost every game I play, or run rather, is the Ring of Misfortune. So it's a D10 roll every time you rest for different things. Look it up for the exact stuff because I'm not going to remember it off the top of my head. But there's anything from you just don't get the effects of the rest. You can't see out of one eye for until your next rest. You stink. Bandits come to beat the snot out of you. You lose something or any like a whole bunch of stuff, and it can just be super fun. I had one player who kept rolling the bandits, and he kept being like, I don't know why these bandits keep coming after me. I don't know why. And it created one of the funniest scenes in that campaign, because he was asleep, the bandits came over to him, he was a druid. Threw me off when he said this, because I was like, the bandits are jostling you, they're waking you up. He says, I stand up, I'm butt naked. And he just starts beating the snot out of the bandits butt naked, and it's the way he described it was so funny. I can't even accurately do it. The whole table was rolling on the floor.
It's a good answer.
And it's technically a curse. I love implementing lycanthropy because it can also, number one, scare your players, and number two, it's a fun thing that I just love werewolves, creatures in general. It's just a fun thing. So those are two of my favorite curses. And it's not too hard to implement them because technically, at least in 5e, I don't know about other systems per se, I'm sure it's pretty similar. You can technically identify magic if you have the spell, but technically it doesn't reveal if it's a curse or not. Most cursed items specifically say if identify is cast on it, it identifies as X item.
I think
So,
talking about identify, I think it tells you if it's cursed. I just don't think it tells you what the curse is.
By what I have always, this is like a discussion I have had with DMs before. Most DMs they kind of leave it up to their discretion. Like some DMs are like, yes, I always tell them it's cursed, but I don't tell them the curse. Or they will tell them nothing, or they'll tell them, yeah, it's cursed and what the curse is. Like I've heard DMs doing it all kinds of ways. And I feel like and this is how I like to run curses, I don't like people to know.
Yeah, same.
Because I think it's funner.
Yeah. That's why when I run it, identify, it does not identify it.
I think with not telling them that it's cursed, I don't know if I feel like it takes away the fun of, because if you don't tell them, like if you tell them, oh, it's magical and it has a curse, you don't tell them, then they're just going to use it. But I feel like if you tell them that it's cursed, but don't tell them what the curse is, you get that great player interaction of them trying to decide if they use it or not. And is it worth it to be able to have this magical item to take on whatever curse it is? I just think that character contemplation for them to play it out other than them just going, oh, okay, yeah, it's magical, and they don't know that it's cursed. They use it, the curse comes out the first time. I feel like that's not as climactic as, you know, they're in a big battle. They know they have this magic item, they know it's cursed, but they don't know what it is. And it could really help them out, and they have to make that decision if they're going to use it or not. I don't know. I just see that like that player contemplation and them deciding, because it's a character moment if you put it that
So-
way.
On that
It's-
note, I had a session where they were in the mansion. There's obviously dark stuff going on in it, and they found 3 magic items. All 3 of the magic items were cursed. They figured out pretty quickly that 2 of them were cursed. They found the 3rd, and they instantly were just like, "Nope, we know it's cursed. We're
That's what I
not.
was gonna
No.
say.
We're not."
That's the other side of the coin, right? I've run into that where it's like, oh, like when I first started DMing, I would be like, yeah, it's a magical item, and when you identify it, it does X, Y, and Z, but then there's also a curse on it, and everybody was like, no.
Yeah.
So that's why I stopped, because it was like it scared people off.
It can. Now,
I can see where it
sometimes-
can, but if it's a magic item that's specifically made, like somebody can use it and they know they can use it. I feel like it's a little bit more lenient on if it's just a magic item that has like no particular use to one person and it has a curse on it, then I could see where they're like, oh, well, I don't care about it. We don't need it. But you know, you get something that's like made for a warlock and yeah, it's cursed. That warlock is going to have that contemplation of, I could use it and it could work really well, but it is cursed. And you had like it all goes back to that. It all depends on, and it goes back to I think what we've talked about in previous episodes. It depends on who's at your table, the people that are at your table, and how they're gonna react. Erica knows, like, if she puts a cursed item in front of me and me and Fox, we're like, and it's like, you know, it could be used by other characters. We're like, okay, is it gonna be worth it? You know, who's gonna use it? Like, and like if we know it's cursed, like if it goes on that, is it gonna be one of those times like the curse doesn't matter?
But the thing is because the way I run cursed items, every magical item I give you could be cursed.
Yeah.
You should be contemplating every item I give you.
Yeah.
Because, and which one, in my opinion, which one holds a little bit more anxiety? Every item, or I'm like, yeah, it's cursed. But I'm not going to tell you how.
Yeah,
I don't
see,
know.
I agree.
Yeah, I just like that player, depending on your players, and it just keeps going back to that. I like that idea of it is a player contemplation of, do I use this and take on this curse or not?
Well, and also it can, depending on how you play and how you look at your party, right? It also affects everyone in the party, depending on what the curse is,
Yeah.
right? I hate
Yeah.
to like go back to Crow Curl, but I'm going to go back to Crow Curl. When I think that's what I think about when I think about curses. I think
Grog.
about Grog in the outhouse with the great sword, and
Yeah.
he's talking to it, and it says,
vampiric
"Feed
sword.
me." Yeah, that he got from. Oh, I don't want to say it, just in case spoilers or whatever. But he gets
how
it
long has
in
it been
C1.
out?
It's been out for a long
It
time.
doesn't
but
matter.
the-
Some
it's
people
in-
haven't
it's in the
watched it.
animated-
No,
it's
it
in the animated
follows-
show.
It
So
follows movie
that's-
rules. It's been out for at least a year and a half. Then
Yeah.
you can spoil it, and it's not our
Well,
fault.
I think the season 2 hasn't been out a year, so that's
yeah,
why I'm
but
talking about it. It's in the
he
animated
gets it in
show.
season 1.
You know what? I know how to solve this. Viewers, listeners, spoiler alert here.
For the next
Skip
like
ahead if
10
you-
seconds.
Skip ahead if you don't want
So-
to hear it.
He gets the sword from the Briarwoods, and
Silas.
he's in an outhouse, and he's talking to it, and it says, "Feed me," and he's like, "What do you want?" And basically he wants blood, and so the sword will force Grog to kill, and he will force him to kill and feed him, whether he feeds on Grog, whether he feeds on the people next to Grog. And in a battle, that could be Keyleth, it could be anybody. And if they're just traveling for a while, it's constantly saying, feed me, feed me.
Yeah.
Right? And it could overtake him and force him to hurt himself or others, innocents in the streets, right? So curses it's also one of those things that, like, yeah, it affects your character, but also can affect your entire party. And
Yeah.
it's like some people, if you're sitting at a table, depending on the metagaming level at your table, if you look at somebody and you're like, yeah, you get a sword, and if it doesn't have blood every 24 hours, it will overtake you and it will make you attack either yourself or whoever's closest to you. Most people at that table, if they're like, they'd be like, no, you can't have that. Because
Yeah.
that means they could be one of us.
It does depend on the group, though, because I had a
It does
party
depend on
one
the group.
time. I gave them the Eye of Vecna,
Oh, shit.
and yeah, oh shit. I straight up told them, or told the player that found it, and everybody else at the table heard, this is what it is, this is what it does. If you use this is one of the few times I'm going to tell you, if you use this,
Hand me your character
you will
sheet.
slowly turn evil, and eventually you're going to have to make a new character. What did they do? They said, oh, I can cast Disintegrate, I can cast Finger of Death, whatever else spells, because I don't remember right now. And he was like, cool. Popped out his eye, put the Eye of Vecna in. Okay.
Yeah.
It did
Yeah.
affect the whole party because he did start acting a little wonky, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
some players will do that, and
Oh,
some
yeah.
players won't.
I had in my DCC group, I gave a diadem to one of the players, and I said, because like DCC works differently on like how you identify magic and stuff, and they didn't have any means to figure out what it did. So the person that gave it to him said, I know that it does, these 2 gems will cast these 2 spells, but this one I have no idea what it does. And he used it and constantly would use it. And when he would say, I'm going to use the diadem to cast the unknown spell, everyone who was at that table ran away from him because they were scared of what would happen. Because like DCC, magic is not controlled like it is in 5th edition, unless you're doing wild magic, of course. But in other systems, like magic is pretty controlled, right? In DCC, it can manifest and be wild if you fail your roll, and it can cause harm to you, to others. You could, drop a fireball on yourself, basically. And he loved it. He was constantly wanting to figure it out. And I told him, I said, well, you're not going to know the spell unless, you successfully cast it. So that was it wasn't a curse necessarily, but, it was just something to mess with him.
Yeah.
That
Erica,
sounds so fun.
You can go ahead and talk about your favorite curse.
Who? Me?
You?
Oh, shit. I don't know. I mean, like, I don't think I've ever had a cursed item as a player.
What about as a DM? What was your favorite one to use then? Or your favorite curse to place?
I like curses that I'd see. I don't even know if it's considered a curse. I think probably my favorite thing is messing with probably the island that messes with your memory. Like, it's Saturday and everybody thinks it's Saturday, but it's not Saturday. And I think that's kind of fun. I also, I know it sounds kind of silly, but I think curse items that have personalities to them versus like, it's just like, oh, you get this ring and it turns your hand blue, kind of thing. But something, giving a cursed item or whatever a curse and turning into, like I had said, like the sword with Grog, where, they were role playing with each other, the DM and him, and doing something like that. I feel like for a curse, I think it makes it a little bit more interactive for the player and the DM, and seeing how far you can take that. Kind of like what I did with you, Fox. You had a phylactery of a lich, and that's a cursed item. And And that's kind of where I got the idea of him being like, if you don't give me what I want, I will take it. That's where I got that idea. I got it from Critical Role season 1 with Grog, because that was one of my favorite scenes. Him acting like he's pooping, Scanlan's outside, and he's talking to the sword. But, that's just me.
Yeah,
What do you
sentient
think,
or
Sparks?
sentient.
Sentient, yeah.
Sentient,
Something
yeah.
sentient. Yeah, for sure.
I could definitely see that because I've also used the Sword of Cass in that same campaign, and it does the same thing. If you're doing something it doesn't like, hey, make a wisdom saving throw. You might not be in control anymore.
Yeah. I don't really know if I have like a favorite, like, I guess official curse, because I've not really had a cursed item, I don't think, that I can vividly remember off the top of my head. I probably have sometime. I just don't remember it. But like, I kind of like to go like more like untraditional. I like to have the curses like in the backstory. That's like, it's not something that you gain while you're in the campaign. It's something you started out with. Like my character in Erica's campaign before, like she had the features of a cat. Like they were cursed by a hag. Many go in their centuries, and it like would skip and like skip generations and all this other stuff. So like I like more curses that are like that, where it's not like, you get it while you're adventuring through a dungeon and you find this item and you're cursed now, or throughout play, like you get cursed by somebody because you did this and that and the other. I kind of like having that in the backstory, because it's something that your character starts out with, and it's something that kind of gives your character a little bit more that they have in their background. So I can't really say that I have like a favorite cursed item, but curses, I like having them kind of before.
What
we
about curses
start.
upon the land? Like
Pestilence and
in
everything.
like Strahd, right? Like in Ravenloft, there's that land is cursed,
Yeah, it's the domain
right?
of
You
dread.
can't. Yeah, so
I don't
like
really know if I would count those as curses.
Well, in a way, it kind of
de-
is like it
Yeah, it
depends.
It could depend on how you
Because
look at it, because you're cursed to never leave, but it's also, that's just how a domain of dread works. You
well, it's
cannot
not
leave the
just I'm not just talking
confines.
about I'm just so like it's more than that, right? So like the land can be cursed, like it can the vineyard, right? They can't grow grapes anymore. The land has been cursed. And part of it is like you trying to help them bring the crop back and bring the vines back, right?
Yeah.
Something like that is what I mean. Not just I'm not just talking about Ravenloft, right? I'm just saying like that is an example there, but land can be cursed, locations can be cursed, chests are cursed. Like it's not just sticking to an item, right? It could be anything, right?
Yeah.
Traps have curses, stuff like that. Because like I know we've been talking a lot more about items, so what do y'all think about those? It's not my topic, but I thought I'd just like take a left turn.
No, actually, it's an aspect I didn't even think about, and it's especially funny because I actually, in my current campaign that I'm running, on Saturday, I just sent my players to an island that is completely cursed. It is a curse of death. Every
Yeah.
8 hours they're on this island. They have to make a constitution save, and on a failure, they accrue a level of exhaustion.
Hey.
A long rest has a 50-50 shot of removing the exhaustion or just adding another one. So it's funny that you said that, because I also am obviously a fan of environmental curses as well, because I did that. Like, they get there, I described the land, no plants, it looks horrible, everything's dead. Even the fish in the ocean that's banging up against the edge of the island, they're all dead.
Yeah.
There's no animals. And they're like, okay, walk around. Everybody con save. Why am I tired?
Why do you think it's Saturday? I think curses can be fun. I know that a lot of people, it's like, oh, it's a chest and there's going to be a curse on it or whatever. But I think it can give an ordinary town, you lay a curse upon it, right? It makes it feel a little bit more than it's like, oh, it's just another town in the middle of nowhere. It gives it just a little bit more personality, and it doesn't always have to be a bad thing. I mean, like, it could lead into bad stuff, but there could always just be a curse that it's like everyone's always smiling.
Yeah. I was just about to
Right.
say, Sparks, do you have an opinion on environmental curses?
No, they're fun. I mean, it's one of those things that are there before. I think I enjoyed them a little bit more because they've always been there and it's not just like a sudden thing. Like, obviously, if you open a chest and it releases a curse, that's a little bit different. But like, if it was there before, I think that's fun.
It just makes me think about just it can build a sense of dread to a location if you say, well, this land is cursed. Like when they find it out as a rumor when they're traveling to it versus it's just another town.
Well, do we have anything else on curses?
No.
No. I think the last topic is Ericus.
Well, we're talking about environment. So, terrain. What's your favorite terrain? What kind of terrain do you enjoy? What kind of terrain do you not? And when I say terrain, I'm talking like, do you like setting in a forest? Do you like it set in a jungle? Do you like to be in the ocean? What is your favorite terrain? It could be like you had talked about islands, it could wherever, if it's like volcanic, maybe, I have never played in the jungle and I have always wanted to do something that is more of like I wouldn't say like a riverboat adventure, but I don't know why, but I like the water and I always want to incorporate fishing because I like to fish. And so I think it would be fun to go in the jungle and have like a rowboat and, there's piranhas and all that kind of stuff. And you're in the heart of a jungle and you're searching like very Tomb Raider, Uncharted. Like, I would love to do that. I've never gotten to play in something that's like that. I hope one day I get to. That's like something I would like to. Most of the time, my favorite terrain that I have played in is forest. And I know that sounds probably pretty boring, but I like being in the woods as a person. So, and I think their dark forests are interesting. There's a lot of stuff that like could be in them, and I don't know. I think it's because I live somewhere that's real green and it feels kind of homey and creepy all at the same time. And some people say that dungeons are terrain as well. Let me throw that out there just in case. But I know y'all don't like dungeons.
We already established that's neither of our favorites.
I just wanted to put that out there because I didn't say dungeons. So,
I guess I'll go ahead and go. I'm like you, Erica. I actually really love forests. I feel like there's a lot you can do with them. There's a lot of places for enemies to hide. There's a lot of places for players to hide. I've had players jump up and get advantage on their sharpshooter and things like that by climbing in the trees. Things like that I really like. It feels like you can just do so much. You could do a similar thing in a jungle as well. So any of those forested places I think are fun. I've never actually gotten to play in a jungle either, but
jungle game. That's what we're gonna do. I'm writing down jungle game.
But the other aspect is I personally I have a rule at my table. I don't keep track of rations or water unless you're in a place that it is reasonable you would not have access to it.
Like your island of death.
If you're in a forest, you can find berries, you can find plants. There's water somewhere in that forest. It is reasonable to assume you are able to access all of those things. If you're in a desert or my island of death, you better have stocked up because I'm going to be keeping track. And I've warned my players this ahead of time. you won't have to track it unless you go to like a desert or somewhere like that. So I don't like desert or say tundra environments because that's where I make you keep track and it's more complicated. Now, not every DM will do that. That's just something I do, and that's one thing I don't like about it because they are a more harsh environment and there's more things to consider. And you go to the tundra, I feel like there needs to be an environmental cold damage thing. That's just me, and that's why I don't prefer those environments because there's more to keep track of, I feel like, as a DM. Or more danger as a player. Or there should be. My opinion. My hot take.
Yeah, it makes sense for something like that to be an issue, especially in those areas. I am very much different than either of these two. I enjoy the more urban settings, like cities, just because I feel like there's a lot more that can really happen, because you can have, you know, I feel like a lot more things. I enjoy being able to have, like, you have more open areas. I have played a game in a jungle, didn't enjoy it. My character almost died 3 times by vines. And we were level like 5. And I was like, okay, that's cool. And then just kind of going through the jungle, if you don't have somebody that is very survival based, then you'll never get out of the jungle if you have to go through a jungle. And I don't know, I just feel like there's more, I'm very roleplay heavy, so being in an urban setting is going to be more opportunities to roleplay with more people and have more options. Now look, you cannot tell me you're in a forest or a jungle, you're going to have an opportunity every single time to roleplay with people other than in your party.
Okay, I was about to say, you could always roleplay with your party.
Other than in your party, you do that anyways. Like, I'm talking about outside opportunities that are going to be there every single time.
Yes,
I mean,
but
it depends.
Go ahead, Erica.
I mean, if you're let's say, like, if you're playing something like 5e, you're a ranger, you're a druid, something like that, I mean, you could talk to the animals. It's there. I mean, if you choose to or not, but they're there. You can. And I think that it just depends on where you're at. For me, I like the open space, the more of being out in the wilderness, because, like, that's something that appeals to me. Like, I don't live in a city, obviously, by the way I talk. So, I mean, to me, like, I like that aspect of it. Like, you know, you don't know what's around the next, like, tree. You could get lost. To me, the idea of, I mean, like, the journey, right, to a location can be just as much fun as your destination, right? I mean, that's what Tolkien was all about. Their journey to Mordor, that was, I mean, all they did was travel, but a lot. I think the reason why I like certain places, like you were talking about tundra, I love the tundra. I would say tundra is probably my second favorite. And I like those places because of the monsters that I prefer to use are mostly in those places. Like forest, because I like hags, and I love hags. And I like more of, I mean, like, you know, you could think you're just talking to a bird. It could be a druid. I think there's opportunities, travelers, bandits, stuff like that.
But most of the time, whenever you have DMs and you go through those areas, you get 1 or 2 of those, and then you get nothing else because they don't want to deal with it. If you're going to go through a forest or a jungle with most DMs, it is just a travel point. You may get 1 interaction with humans or bandits or anything, and that's it. It's because they don't want to deal with anything else. Most of the time, whenever I've played that hasn't been you or Ashley, it's been that. It hasn't been you meet these people that you can just talk to. No, it's always random encounters of things that come to attack you because the bandits are like, we're gonna steal all your shit. Like, it I mean, and that's what it is.
Well, that's what they do.
Yeah.
I mean, well, no, I'm saying like that's what it is about those areas. It's like most of the time, whenever you have a DM that you're not, that they don't know their players, that's what it is. That's what happens. So most of the games that I've played in that have had those areas, that's how it's been. Except for the two people that are here that I've played in their games.
See, I get where you're coming from with that, but I'm going to make the argument. I know you're talking about mainly random encounters, random NPCs that are outside of the party you can talk to. But I've had the experience that when you're traveling, and one of my favorite games, we were traveling through a desert, as much as I don't really care for deserts. Some of our best, most intense roleplay happened during that travel amongst the party because we had nothing else to do but sit and talk to each other. And that's how secrets came out. That's how we learned about each other and how we became a closer knit party just because we had that opportunity to just role play with one another.
But your
Instead of having
DM
to
gave
talk
you
to
that
anybody else.
opportunity to talk through it. They didn't skip through everything. Which most of them skip through everything except for those random encounters. Your
think it comes
watches at
down-
long rest.
Well, see, in this like Sparks, what I'm hearing is it's not the terrain's fault. It's the DM that you had. That's
I
a
don't know.
DM
I think
issue.
it's also, I mean, but you got to think from your experiences, that's where you pick up your what you like and don't like.
That's true.
Well,
You
yeah,
can't make
that's
the
what
argument
I'm
of it's
saying.
just the DM because those experiences give you, because you like how you in your personal life you like the outdoors. You live like pretty much in the middle of nowhere, and that's what you grew up on, and that's what you like, being on the water and being in the woods. So that came with your like of those terrain areas.
But do you think you would like the forest more if you had more people to NPCs to talk to?
More than likely, probably.
That's what, like,
Maybe. I mean,
you
I
know.
can't say yes or no because I haven't had that.
Yeah.
So
I would see that's like jungle. Like I think I would like playing in the jungle, but I have no idea if I would.
yeah, like I think my second favorite terrain area that we've been to was the Underdark. It's
That
pretty,
was fun.
and I like the lore.
Yeah. Well, and I mean like that's I mean there it depends on where you're at in the Underdark, but that could be, more random encounter or NPCs, yeah. Or it
Yeah.
gives you a lot of, like you're talking about, Fox, a lot of good times because I mean a lot of times you gotta, in order to get to the true Underdark, it takes a lot of walking. It sounds like we need to do a jungle game.
It
Well,
does.
you can run Tomb of Annihilation. That's all jungle. That's
Oh,
all
gosh.
you need.
Oh gosh.
It's
I've never
literally what it
been.
is. Does anybody else have anything to say on terrain?
I think we should make a giant statue of Doug. And it should look like Doug, like from the animated TV show. There should be a golden statue of Doug
Oh my gosh.
in a
Good
jungle
Lord.
somewhere. He's like, he blesses you somehow.
He's a god. We have created a new
Doug.
god. Okay.
Oh
Yeah, he's got a little
gosh.
dog,
Oh
Oh
gosh.
my gosh. Well, I think we
Well.
had some pretty good discussion tonight with our 3 topics: character types, curses, and terrain. Hope you enjoyed this episode of Dice and Dish, and we will see you next time. Bye.
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 Hey travelers, Sparks here. Thank you so much for listening to the season finale of Dice and Dish. We're so happy that everybody has taken this adventure with us, going through our first season, and we really hope that you also enjoyed it. we are going to be taking the month of January off going into the new year, just so we can record more episodes, so we can have other things, we can update some things for the podcast. So yeah, I'm super excited for what season 2 is going to hold. And season 2 is going to start on February 2nd of 2024, and we are super excited to start that. And yeah, if you haven't already, make sure that you go and subscribe to our YouTube channel and get us up to 25 subscribers. Once we hit 25, we're going to be doing a special live episode of Dice and Dish, just kind of recanting over the episodes that we've had before. So yeah, so thank you so much, and we hope everybody has a great new year, and see you guys in 2024. Bye.